Hey folks, Doug Blake with Body Design University. In this video, I'm actually going to answer a question that a student had asked me. Really good question. It's not that I don't get questions like this very often. I do in different ways. Students will ask me, questions related to frequency of training, volume of training, intensity, things like that. But this one particular student asked me a really good question related to the number of times to train during the day. In other words, frequency of workouts in a single day. Now, just a little backstory on some of this information. Many years ago, and to a certain extent, even today, if you remember Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course, the famous bodybuilder Arnold Schwarzenegger, many years ago, and we're talking the late 1960s, early 1970s, all through his time as Mr. Olympia in his competitive days, he used to do what was known as a double split routine. In other words, he would train in the morning, a specific body part. He would eat, go home, sleep, whatever, and then he would come back later in the day and he would train again. So two workouts, two resistance training workouts per day. Generally, he did that 6 days a week in some cases. Now, I will say this, that was not his normal training schedule during what was called the off season. Bodybuilders today, especially the top level guys, generally don't really have quote an off season. But there was an off season, and that's not how he generally trained like that. He would do that roughly, if you were to ask him, roughly 2 to 3 months prior to the main competition, which for him was the Mr. Olympia. So normally a couple of months he'd get into this heavy training mode and he'd move into this very high frequency style of training. With that said, a lot of folks, myself included, thought that that was the normal way to train. And I remember when I was first doing resistance training, 18 years old, 17 years old, I thought that was the way to do it. So I would do resistance training twice a day. I would try to do that for 2 to 3 days in a row, not realizing that you have to be doing a boatload of pharmaceuticals, i.e., anabolic steroids, to help and assist with the recovery of that insane level of training. Well, I tried it and I would always get sick. My body simply couldn't recover. And that's kind of the backstory on this helps us to understand why, in general, we just don't recommend two resistance training resistance workouts each day. Okay, so that's kind of the short answer to how often should I train it. So the students asking me, should I do 2 a days? Is it okay to do 2 times a day, two resistance? And the answer is, if you can recover and your body can adapt to any level of training and you're accomplishing your goals, then I guess sure. It's just we don't really see that very often. In fact, it's very rare that I see even high level athletes, bodybuilders in particular. I'm talking about resistance training workouts. Please keep that in mind. We're talking resistance training workouts that have a standard level of volume and intensity to the workouts. Imagine doing a chest workout where you're doing 3 or 4 exercises for your pecs, 2 to 3, maybe 4 sets for each of those exercises. You're counting the volume now. 8 to 10 to 12 reps. That's a fair amount of volume. Imagine doing that at 7 in the morning, right? And you're done with that workout and you eat, you sleep, you take a nap during the day. And then at 5 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock at night, you come back in and train another body part. I don't know, for instance, say your back or a different body part. That would be a 2 a day or equivalent to what's known as a double split type of routine. And the answer to the question of should I do it is no, I would not recommend that. Again, even some of the highest level competitive athletes out there simply cannot maintain that level of volume and intensity in their training. Could they do it? Yeah, but not for very long. And so, again, the idea that the average person or the average client doing two strength training exercises per day, no. Now, can you do strength training and resistance every day of the week or 3 days on and 1 day off? Sure, people do it all the time. Can you get good results with that? And the answer is, like I said before, always related to the body's ability to recover, right? to adapt to the level of stress that's being imposed on it. Remember, at the end of the day, this always comes down to whether or not your particular body, right, or your clients can recover from the stress that's being imposed on them from the resistance training. Now, can you do two workouts? And look, I'm doing air quotes, two workouts per day? Absolutely. I basically do that all the time, meaning I do one resistance training workout. And then the second workout later in the day generally is going to be a cardio, generally a cardio based workout, cardio respiratory type of training. It could also be if you're an athlete, it could be a calisthenic type workout. It could be a workout related specifically to your sport. Take a track and field athlete or a swimmer, for instance, particularly like a swimmer. I used to swim in high school. We did generally two swim workouts per day. And if we did one workout, then we would do a resistance training workout, normally in the afternoon or late afternoon, depending on when we could get the weight room if it was available. So high level athletes can do multiple workouts during the day, and that's entirely again up to their adaptive capabilities and recovery. Now, from a purely business perspective, a personal trainer talking to a client, the answer is no, get that one resistance training workout in at least 3 times per week. Again, it depends on the model or programming that you're looking to. But if you want to push the envelope, sure, you can train resistance training one day, and then the second day, third, maybe take a day off on day number 3 or 4. It depends, obviously, on the recovery capability. But absolutely, you can train a little bit more frequently. And as a person gets more fit and more capable of recovery, they're sleeping well, they're eating well, right? Then sure, you can do multiple workouts during the day. But the second or even the third workout, if you're doing that, should not be, we don't recommend that it be another resistance training workout. So the idea then is yes, we generally will be very conservative. We will start the average client at 3 days or 3 resistance training workouts per week. And you can do the split that you want. We generally, I'll recommend the push pull. So chest, shoulders, and triceps, i.e., the pushing muscles on like Monday. Wednesday would be the pulling muscles, back and biceps, for instance, and take a day rest. And then Friday or Saturday, but generally Friday, you would do then legs or lower body, right? So that would be an ideal way to start. And as individuals become more fit or they're unable to get cardio in on their off days, well, then they can do their cardio. Let's just say the only days I can actually train are Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I can't do anything on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays because of my schedule. Then, yeah, I am going to recommend that perhaps you do your cardio training later in the day. If you work out in the morning and you can do twos, right? A twofer on a Monday and a twofer on a Wednesday, a twofer on a Friday. Well, then you do your resistance training early. If that's when you can do it, you might do that one at night. But sure, you can do your cardio in the morning, but you got to monitor how well you're recovering from this. Remember, we always start with the idea that as long as your body can adapt and recover, and everybody has different levels or capabilities of recovery, then sure, you do whatever helps you or your clients to achieve those particular goals. So I hope this is helpful. The answer is not as easy. It's a little bit more complicated when we're talking about sort of the world out here of just pure physiology and recovery. And we're not talking about the real world or the business component of your training, where it's basically you're going to train people Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right? Or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, whatever the case is. In this sort of surreal world where you don't work or anything like that, sure, you can train and recover. But in the quote, real world where you're trying to operate a business and you're dealing with the average person who's not very fit and perhaps they don't have great recovery, you always start more conservative with, say, 3 days a week, in some cases, even 2 days a week of resistance training, and then do the cardio respiratory training, calisthenics, sports specific type of training, either on those same days or on those off days. So I hope that helps. If you got questions on that, please go ahead and put it in the comment box below. If you understood it, right understanding there, we're more than happy to answer your questions on anything related to the personal training industry. Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Give us a thumbs up as well. Let us know how we can be of assistance. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Thanks.